Ever wish you had like a personal assistant, to handle those ugh, tedious tasks? Booking a last-minute flight or maybe even writing that report that's due tomorrow.
Oh, I think we've all been there. Those days when you wish you had an extra set of hands or even an extra brain.
Right. Well, what if I told you we're getting closer to that becoming a reality, thanks to this exciting world of agentic AI?
It's true.
And get this, we're not talking about some far-off sci-fi fantasy. This is about building your own AI agents right now.
Yeah. And the technology to do that is evolving so quickly. It's incredible. And today, we're going to help you understand a key player in this whole agentic AI thing, the AutoGen framework.
That's right. AutoGen, it's a tool developed by Microsoft, and it basically promises to make building these super powerful AI agents a lot easier than you might think, which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is.
Our deep dive today is based on a recent Open API Hub community article. The title is Building Your First Agentic AI with AutoGen Framework.
Yeah, it's a fantastic article, a great starting point, really, because, it takes this complex topic, agentic AI, and breaks it down into, like, manageable steps.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a background in AI, you can follow along.
Okay, so let's get into it. First things first, what exactly is AutoGen? What makes it so special?
Okay, so in the simplest terms, right, imagine AutoGen as a conductor of an orchestra. But instead of musicians, it's conducting AI. It's essentially a multi-agent framework, which basically means it lets you create multiple AI agents. And these agents, they can talk to each other, they can work together, and they can even hold conversations with humans, all to achieve, like, a specific goal.
So it's like giving these AI agents the ability to, like, communicate and collaborate just like a real-world team.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
That's huge.
It is huge. And you know what's really cool? AutoGen. It leverages the power of those large language models, the LLMs.
Oh, yeah. The LLMs, those are the brains behind, like, all those impressive AI chatbots we keep hearing about, right?
Exactly. The brains of the operation. But here's the thing, AutoGen, it helps us go beyond just those simple chatbot interactions, right? It helps us harness the true potential of LLMs. We can tackle much more complex tasks now.
Okay, so we're not just talking about, like, chatting about the weather anymore.
No. Think bigger. Imagine an AI team that can really understand your needs, break down these complicated problems into smaller steps, and then actually execute those steps, maybe by interacting with other AIs or even real people. That's pretty wild.
Whoa, okay, my mind is already, like, racing with possibilities here. But let's maybe take it back a notch for a second, The article, it starts with a pretty cool example. It uses a simple weather reporting agent.
Yeah, and that's a great way to understand the fundamentals of AutoGen, right? I mean, everyone gets the weather. And the article walks you through building this weather agent step by step, starting with the initial setup, installing AutoGen, configuring the LLM you want to use. It's all there.
And actually, just a quick heads up for our listeners. The article mentions a little detail about installing AutoGen that's easy to miss. Make sure you use the command pip install PyOgen. It's PyOgen, not just AutoGen.
Easy to forget that. I've done it a million times.
Easy mistake. Now, when it comes to choosing your LLM, the article, it recommends Azure OpenAI GPT 3.5 Turbo as a really strong option.
Solid choice.
But there's this temperature parameter they talk about that I was curious about.
Oh, yeah, the temperature.
What does that actually control?
Okay, so think of temperature as like the creativity dial for your AI, right? If you crank up the temperature, you're basically saying, hey, be more adventurous with your responses. Get a little random, surprise me. A lower temperature means your AI is going to be more predictable. Like, it's the difference between a super reliable assistant who always plays it safe and one who might, throw in a curveball every now and then.
I like the sound of that.
It's fun to play around with.
So with that temperature setting, you can really kind of fine-tune your AI's like personality, make it more conservative, or let it be a little more freewheeling and wild.
Exactly. You've got options.
That's so cool. Okay, so the article then shows how this weather agent, the one we were just talking about, actually interacts with a user. And honestly, it feels surprisingly natural. Like, you just ask a simple question, like, what's the weather like in Hong Kong? And bam, the AI gives you this clear, concise forecast.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
It's impressive.
It is impressive, but it gets even better. AutoGen can actually orchestrate conversations between multiple AI agents. Remember how we said it was a multi-agent framework?
Right.
Well, the article shows this with an example of a weather presenter and a questioner. So now you have two distinct AIs. And they're designed to actually interact and exchange information.
Okay, so instead of just one AI responding to a user, now we've got a whole conversation going on between like multiple AIs.
Exactly.
This is where that multi-agent framework really comes into play.
Yes, it's like setting up this dynamic exchange of ideas. Each AI takes turns, like contributing to the conversation, building on what the other one said.
Wow.
And here's the really cool part. AutoGen gives you this really fine-grained control over this whole back and forth. You can use parameters like max time. Yeah, it's basically like setting a limit on how long those AI conversations can go on for.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like you're saying, okay, team, you've got 5 minutes to brainstorm this idea, and then we got to move on.
Exactly. Keep it focused, keep it efficient.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you're designing like a customer service chatbot or something.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want it to just ramble on forever. You'd want it to, get to the point and provide helpful info in a concise way.
Exactly. Nobody's got time for a chatbot that just loves to hear itself talk.
Right. So speaking of, bringing these conversations to an end, the article, it highlights a couple of really interesting ways to do that.
Yeah, there are a few different approaches, and it's not about just, like, cutting off the AI in the middle of a sentence. It's about providing a natural, satisfying end to the conversation. One way to do that is using something called is-termination MSG.
Is-termination message sounds kind of ominous.
I know, right? But it's not as dramatic as it sounds. Basically, you can program in, like, specific keywords or phrases that signal to AutoGen, okay, the conversation's over. So, if an agent says goodbye or that's all the information I have for you right now, conversation over.
Okay, so it's like giving your AI agents a polite way to like excuse themselves from the conversation rather than just leaving the user hanging.
Exactly. Polite AIs, always a plus. Now, another cool feature is max consecutive auto reply.
Okay.
I know, it sounds a little technical.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's basically there to prevent any one agent from, like, dominating the conversation.
Oh, that makes sense. Especially in a multi-agent setup. You wouldn't want one AI hogging the spotlight.
Exactly. This way, every agent gets a chance to contribute. It prevents any one voice from becoming, too overwhelming. Just keeps that conversation flow balanced and dynamic.
This is all incredibly fascinating. But up until now, we've been talking about AI agents, like, interacting with each other.
Right.
But what about us humans? Can we actually participate in these conversations, or are we just, like, passive observers? What's going on here?
That's the question, right? And this is where AutoGen gets really, really interesting. It actually lets humans participate in these AI-powered conversations through, get ready for it, human input mode.
Human input mode. All right, that sounds intriguing. I'm ready to dive in. What can we actually do with this human input mode?
Well, it basically gives you, the human, the ability to, like, steer the conversation. You can give your own input, influence where the AI's responses go. It's like having a conversation with a really, really smart assistant who's always open to your suggestions and guidance.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Can you, like, break it down a little bit more? How does this actually work in practice? What are the different ways we can interact with these AI agents?
Sure. So the article talks about two main modes of human input, and they each offer a different level of, like, control and interaction. Let's start with the terminate mode.
Terminate mode. Okay, now we're getting into some sci-fi territory. What happens in terminate mode?
All right, so imagine you've set those conversational boundaries we talked about, like the maximum number of turns or those termination phrases. In terminate mode, once you hit one of those boundaries, the conversation, it pauses. And that creates an opening for you to jump in.
So you're kind of like waiting in the wings, ready to offer your input at just the right moment.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
You can interject, ask a follow-up question, maybe even steer the conversation in a totally new direction, all based on what the AI has said so far.
It's a really cool way to blend, like, human intuition and those AI capabilities. It feels very collaborative.
It is. Now, on the other side of things, you've got the always mode.
Always mode. Okay, now I'm guessing this is where it gets a little more, like, hands-on.
You could say that. In always mode, you're basically a constant participant in the conversation. Every single turn needs human input. It's a real back and forth exchange between you and those AI agents.
So with always mode, you're shaping the conversation, like, in real time, step by step.
You got it.
That's a whole other level of control.
It is. It's great for those situations where you want to be super involved in the process, guiding the AI's every move, making sure the conversation aligns with what you want to accomplish.
I bet this would be incredible for those tasks that need, like, a ton of creativity or personalization, like if you constantly want to be fine-tuning the output.
Exactly. And the article gives some really cool examples of how these input modes actually work in, like, real-world situations.
Okay, now I'm really curious to see this in action. Can we walk through one of those examples? Show me the human input magic.
Of course. Let's stick with our weather agent example because it's easy to, visualize. So let's say a user asks for a basic weather forecast, right?
Okay.
And the AI delivers, no problem. But this time, the system is set to terminate mode. So the AI gives the forecast, right? But instead of just stopping there, it pauses. Like it's waiting for the user to say something,
Okay, yeah.
And let's say this user, they really want to know about the humidity. Maybe they're planning a big outdoor thing.
Makes sense.
So they just ask the AI, what about the humidity? Easy, right? And the AI just rolls with it. It gives them a detailed humidity forecast, no problem.
See, that's what I like about this. It feels so much more natural than those old chatbots. You're not stuck with those canned responses anymore. You get the best of both worlds. The AI is fast, it's accurate, but then you can jump in with your human brain and steer things in the right direction when you need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the perfect partnership. And, if we switch over to that always mode, think about designing a marketing campaign with an AI. Every step of the way, you're right there giving feedback on the AI's ideas, making sure everything is exactly how you want it. It's real teamwork.
It's like having a brainstorming buddy who always comes up with new ideas and is happy to take your suggestions. This whole conversation has been amazing. We started with this kind of abstract idea of agentic AI, and now we're talking about actually building these powerful AI agents using a tool like AutoGen.
And the applications are endless. I mean, we've just scratched the surface here. Imagine using AutoGen to create personalized education plans. Like, students could have these back and forth conversations with AI tutors.
That's incredible.
And these AI tutors could adapt to how they learn best, give them feedback that's tailored just for them.
It would revolutionize education. Or how about using AutoGen to automate all those tedious life tasks that we were talking about earlier, scheduling appointments, booking trips, maybe even managing your money.
Yeah, it could handle all of that. And the best part is it's all through these natural, easy conversations with AI.
This is wild. It's a little intimidating, to be honest. I mean, this technology has the potential to completely change everything.
It does.
But like with any powerful tool, we got to make sure we're using it responsibly.
100%.
Yeah.
We have to have those conversations about AI ethics, about developing it in a responsible way, making sure that it's used to help humanity, not hurt it.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, well, as we wrap up our deep dive here, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. If you could build an AI agent with AutoGen, what would it be? What would it do? Would it help you with your work, maybe spark your creativity a little bit? Or would you just want to have more interesting conversations? It's up to you. Until next time, keep diving deep.